Dear Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, dear Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. In the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. The current situations in my country, and I believe many other countries around the world, where people are struggling to make ends meet, many of which are caused by the leadership that we elected, as well as the international policies that have directly affected thousands of people around the world. How do we exercise radical hospitality and love in our daily lives? I want us to look at the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7. Verse 24 up to 30. Jesus left that place and went into the region of Tyre. He didn't want anyone to know that he had entered a house, but he couldn't hide. In fact, a woman whose young daughter was possessed by an unclean spirit heard about him right away. She came and fell at his feet. The woman was Greek, Syrophoenician by birth. She begged Jesus to throw the demon out of her daughter. Jesus responded, "The children have to be fed first. It isn't right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." But she answered, "Lord, even the dogs under the table eat children's crumbs." "Good answer," Jesus said. "Go on home. The demon has already left your daughter." When she returned to her house, she found the child lying on the bed and the demon gone. I want to tell you a story I read about the president of South Africa. He's the late President Mandela Madiba. He once told his guard when he became president, this is what he said: "After I became president, I asked my escort to go to a restaurant for lunch. We sat down and each of us asked what we wanted. On the front table, there was a man waiting to be served. When he was served, I said to one of my soldiers, 'Go and ask that gentleman to join us.' The soldier went and conveyed my invitation to him. The man got up, took his plate, and sat down right next to me. While he ate, his hands trembled constantly, and he did not lift his head from his food. When he finished, he said goodbye without looking at me. I shook his hand and he left. The soldier told me, 'Madiba, that man must have been very ill, seeing as his hands didn't stop shaking while he ate.' 'Absolutely no. The reason for his trembling is another.' Then I told him, 'That man was the warden of the prison where I stayed. After he tortured me, I screamed and cried, asking for some water, and he came, humiliated me, laughed at me, and instead of giving me water, he urinated in my head. He is not sick. He was afraid that I, now President of South Africa, would send him to prison and do to him what he did to me. But I'm not like that. This conduct is not part of my character, nor of my ethics. Minds that seek revenge destroy states, while those that seek reconciliation build nations. Walking out the door to my freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave all the anger, hatred, and resentment behind me, I would still be a prisoner. The text in Mark takes place during Jesus' ministry in the region of Tyre and Sidon, which is outside the Jewish territory. This area was predominantly Gentile, that is non-Jewish, and Jesus' presence here marks a significant moment in his ministry as he begins to reach out to non-Jewish people. This passage is situated between two stories. The first one is that Jesus' controversy with the Pharisees and scribes over tradition and cleanliness. And the other part is Jesus' healing of a deaf and mute man. So this narrative sandwiches. It highlights Jesus' ministry to those outside of traditional Jewish circles. The Syrophoenician woman, being a Gentile, would have been considered an outsider by Jewish standards. The region of Tyre and Sidon was known for its wealth and trade, but also for its cultural and religious differences from Jewish territories. The woman was impure as per the standards of the Pharisees and scribes, because she lived outside of the land of Israel and outside of Moses' law. The love for the daughter pushed her to break the traditional barriers which otherwise would have prevented her from talking to a stranger. This woman is an outsider, a stranger. So when the woman falls at his feet and begs him to heal her daughter, Jesus says, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." The children here are the children of Israel. The little dogs are understood to be all other peoples. Jesus' harsh response to some interpreters was that he was testing the woman about the faith. Others would say that it was Jesus' humanity brought out as a result of exhaustion and needed some rest. Whichever the case, that stranger, the woman without a name, only referred to as a Syrophoenician woman, full of faith and strong-willed, combined with her boldness and persistence, were values to admire. She came back at Jesus with her wise response, "Sir, even the little dogs under the table eat children's crumbs." And yes, Jesus was amazed and responded, "For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." Hallelujah. The human Jesus says that my mission is to the Israelites alone. But the divine Jesus says, no, there is nothing like that. My mission goes beyond those walls. My mission is to reach all corners of the world, and it includes everybody. Jesus agreed that God's love knows no gender boundaries. God's love and healing go beyond ethics, ethnic, beyond political, and beyond social boundaries. Let me say that again. That God's love knows no gender boundaries. God's love and healing goes beyond ethnic and political and social boundaries. And truly, when she went home, she found the child lying on the bed So Jesus' interaction with the Syrophoenician woman demonstrates his willingness to transcend cultural and religious boundaries. Jesus taught about radical hospitality and love for all. Give and it will be given to you. Good measure, packed together, shaken down and overflowing will be poured into your lap. For the measure with which you measure will in return be measured out to you. What we get from the divine giver is overflowing abundance of compassion. It is an overflowing abundance of pardon and love. Among a people who struggled for enough food, to be given an overflowing measure of grain is an image of the Creator's care and providence. How is one to respond to the unearned gift of God's gracious mercy? The gospel gives the answer by emulating the one whose child we are. Jesus spells out some of the ways that God's children do as God does. Loving enemies, doing good to those who do hateful things, blessing those who speak abusively, and praying for such people. This manner of acting is not unique to Jesus. The reading in Genesis also gives an example of how not to retaliate evil for evil. Joseph said, I am your brother, Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. Beyond individual actions of non-retaliation, Jesus invites his followers into a life that must be chosen so that we reflect the image of the one who made us. By continually opening ourselves to the immeasurable goodness, to the immeasurable compassion and that love of the Most High, and our small capacities are stretched and expanded. The more we become conscious of how much we graciously receive, the more our measure for giving to others increase. In our lives and natural reaction, we always want to return in kind what we get. If someone strikes us, our instinct is to hit back. If someone speaks unkindly of us, our urge is to match the ugly words with even more hurtful words toward the other. If something is taken from us, we want repayment with interest, measure for measure, and then some. That is what we instinctively seek. But Jesus points out that when evil is returned for evil, all it does is to increase the measure of evil in the world. Meting out goodness, compassion, and pardon, especially when that is contrary to what is directed toward us, it subdues and transforms evil. What enables us to be compassionate, non-judgmental, and forgiving and giving is that God has first been that way. God has loved us first. God has forgiven us first. God has been compassionate to our lives. Such a divine action in us then shapes our ability to measure the way God does. It is a challenge to us today, a challenge to each one of us to reflect on our relationships, our relationship with God and our relationships with one another and interactions with others. That to practice radical hospitality and love, just as Jesus demonstrated, by being open to unexpected encounters and relationships, by showing kindness and compassion to those who may not deserve it. Jesus has shown us that we extend generosity and love beyond our comfort zones. God bless you.
Amen.